YouTube, this is Nurse J at Nursing the Truth. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. It's kind of a little solemn Halloween for me today because my hamster is still on the decline, even though I am trying to nurse it back to health. Another vet trip yesterday, a shot of steroids, another antibiotic, and I really just do not know how this is going to turn out. So it's kind of a sad day. But anyway, like I said, yesterday I had to run and jump in the car and get my little girl from gymnastics, and I was on the tail end of I believe the Luke story and possibly John. So on my Jesus, did he get crucified or did someone take his place? Okay, now I told you in Mark and Matthew, it looked like that Simon of Cyrene was the person that got crucified, okay, and that they had led Jesus away, but then as they were leading Jesus away, they grabbed a Simon and crucified him. Especially it looks that way in Mark and Matthew. Now, in Luke, they had a little bit of a talk in chapter 24 saying, well, we thought he was the one that was going to redeem Israel. So they were kind of down in the slumber, and, it had already been 3 days, and, nothing was going on. And so all of a sudden, we have him crucified, and Jesus arrives on the scene in the midst of them, and they all thought that they had seen a ghost or a spirit, an animated figure, per Strong's Concordance of number 4151. And he's saying, touch my hands, touch my feet. It is me, it is I, and I want a honeycomb and some food. So, he even says in the scriptures, or whoever wrote this, does a spirit have flesh and bones as I have? He's saying that. Now, let's do a little critical thinking. If we put all our hope and trust and blind faith in this resurrection, then if this guy died and rose from the dead in 3 days, and he appears, then why can't, when our family members die, why can't we resurrect like he did? Because remember, in the scriptures, he says, and you will do greater things than I. Well, if he says that, then we have just as much power in our bodies as he does, or will have. See, that's a Gnostic text. Now, let's go to John. Now, John is a little bit different. John was written last by whomever this was. Some people say it was Cerinthius, which was a Gnostic. Some people think it could be Simon Magus. Some people, it was Apollonius of Tyana. When Marcion got a hold of the epistles of Apollonius of Tyana, and he kind of twerked it a little bit, we just really don't know. We weren't there. We don't know. But what we do know is the Catholic Church has its nasty little hands in everything that is of today. Now, go to the scene of the crucifixion in John, and we're going to be looking at 18 and 19. And I told you yesterday that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all said that Pilate said, "I find no fault in this man." Now, when they wrote this book, it had to be a Rome-friendly book. It had to be a book where, the Jews that were in that area of the world was looking for a Messiah, looking for someone to redeem, making it a nice book. They couldn't have the Roman characters looking too sadistic because, as we know, in historical factions, Pontius Pilate was like the cruelest prefect that they had. They ran out of wood because he had done so many crucifixions on a daily basis, over 500 people a day. Can you imagine running out of wood and they had to go to Lebanon to import wood for the crucifixions? This guy was on a mad witch hunt. Oh, this sounds like the Roman Church, doesn't it? But they had to make this story look pretty. Now, am I saying that there could have been a renegade named Joshua, Yeshua? There could have been. I've given you all of the Jesus's and Josephus's books. Go read the Antiquities of the Jews. Lots of characters that they can spin into it. So Pilate says he's not guilty. There's no fault in him. He can act like what he wants to do. You can be a running lunatic with your clothes off, having an orgy, so long as you did not cause an insurrection against Rome. Now, in John, they did put Jesus' name into this. And all the other ones was talking about somebody else. But in this John, Jesus, was crucified, supposedly. And what I told you yesterday was quite weird, is in John, like I said, is the last book to be written. Okay, so in Luke, you have a situation where this crucifixion took place, and then Jesus pops up, and they're freaking out, like, whoa, dude, like, where are you coming from? Like, you're crucified. We saw you yesterday. They led you off yesterday after they whipped you. And, oh my God. Like, really? Now, John, what's kind of funny, as I said yesterday, there was in verse 28, in 29. Now there was a set of vessel of vinegar, and they filled it with a sponge and put it unto hyssop, and put it into his mouth. Okay, all the other gospels, he didn't take it, he didn't drink it. But they put it to his mouth this time. And when Jesus had received the vinegar, he said, "It is finished," and bowed his head and gave up the ghost. Well, as I said, hyssop, if you look, it was a medicinal plant. It had aesthetic properties. knock you out, maybe, like chloroform. Could he have hoaxed this? I don't know. Could have Pilate and somebody, the Jewish chief priest, I don't know, to shut the crowd up? I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there. So anyway, he falls asleep. He's on the cross. They pierced his side. Pilate couldn't believe it. And 38. And after this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear of the Jews, besought Pilate that he may take away the body of Jesus, and Pilate gave him leave. He came therefore and took the body of Jesus. Okay. This could, like I said, in historical facts, the life of Josephus, which is in the book of the Antiquities of the Jews, he writes about his friends. As he was coming back in from Rome, he saw 3 of his friends crucified on the cross, and he asked Titus and Vespasian if these 3 friends of his could be released. Now, how true was that? We don't know. Because as we know, Josephus, he is a double-edged sword. And they took him down. Now, 2 friends die and 1 lives. The physician heals him back to life. Now this, Arimathea, Josephus's last name, or let's put it to you, Joseph, his father was named Matthias. His name was called Joseph Bar Matthias. And you have this character, Joseph of Arimathea. Matthew, Matthias. So, was he kind of the storytelling here? We don't know. But 39 is a very, very, very peculiar verse. And I've had to read this over time, and I've seen someone else of credibility break this down as well. And so I'm going to try to bring it to you and see if you can understand this. Like I said, I am not religious. I don't believe in any of this. I used to put my life on this. But once you start breaking things down, like I've been showing you contradictions, people getting crucified instead of this person, and historical facts on this guy was a madman, and you got to go back to antiquity to figure this stuff out. If you do not go back to the ancient documents like Strabo, Herodotus, Pliny, Tacitus, Suetonius, which, those were all relatives. So 39, and there came also, now listen to this, and there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Jesus by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight. Then took they the body of Jesus and wound it in linen clothes with the spices, as the manner of the Jews is to bury. Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden. In the garden, a new sepulchre wherein was never man yet laid. There laid that Jesus, therefore, because of the Jews' preparation and day for the sepulchre was nigh at hand. They have less than 24 hours to bury a Jewish burial. And they use spices for the odor and all that. But what is indicative about verse 39, if you break it down? And there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Jesus by night. Now, Joseph of Arimathea came to him secretly, and also Nicodemus came to him as well. They were both of the Pharisaic line. And brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes. Okay, aloes stops bruising, it stops bleeding, and it starts the healing process of wounds. And if you have a dead body in a tomb, why would you need 100 pounds of the mixture of myrrh and aloes? Do you realize 100 pounds for a man that is dead? Why would you want to put 100 pounds of aloe vera and myrrh to stop bleeding and the wound healing process? Sounds like there was a coercion in this. There was somebody that was in on the game. Moving forward. So after Nicodemus puts 100 pounds of this aloe and myrrh on the body of Jesus, Mary sees the stone taken away from the sepulchre. And she runs and tells Simon and the other disciple who Jesus loved that they had taken the Lord out. Now, she says they have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they have laid him. Now, who is she talking about? Is she talking about the chief priests? Is she talking about the other disciples? Is she talking about the Jews that maybe have believed him? Or was it behind his renegade? So she's running and she's saying, he's not here. They have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they have laid him. Now, Peter therefore went forth and that other disciple and came into the sepulchre. So they ran both together, and the other disciple did outrun Peter and came first to the sepulchre. And he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen clothes lying yet went he not in. Now, that's kind of funny because, okay, here we go. So Mary says she doesn't see the body. Where did they take him? So the disciples, Peter and this beloved whoever he loved, saw the linen clothes lying there. He sees the linen there. And they, in verse 8, in chapter 20 of John, then went in also that other disciple which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed that the tomb was empty. Verse 9. Now this is very, very credible. For as yet they knew not the scripture, that he must rise again from the dead. Then the disciples went away again unto their own home. So you have all the disciples, excluding Mary. She's raising a fit. They have taken the Lord, or my master, Baal, whatever you want to call it, my Adonai, my Yahweh, Jehovah, Dionysus, Bacchus, the sun, out of the sepulchre, and we not know where they have laid them. They run. The body is not in there, but the linens are. And the disciples, excluding Mary, did not know the scripture that he must rise again from the dead. The Jewish prophecy did not say anything about this Messiah coming, dying, and resurrecting. The Messiah was to come, kick ass, take names later, and be the king of Israel over Judah and get Rome out of there. Because they have been in oppression for many, many times under different nations. Babylon, Persia, Syria, Greek, Rome. See? So they went on their way. It was over. She was making a big deal about it. But they're like, we don't know anything about this. So Mary was standing at the sepulchre weeping and crying. And there was these angels, which I don't believe in that either. But and when she had thus said, where they laid the Lord, she turned herself back and saw Jesus, and knew not that it was Jesus. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus saith unto her, Mary. She turned herself and saith unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Touch me not, for I am not ascended to my Father, but go to the brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. Verse 19. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst and saith unto them, Peace be unto you. He showed his hands and his side, but he didn't show his feet like in Luke. And he didn't ask to eat honeycomb and food and whatever. And he didn't say, you look like you've seen a ghost. He didn't say, does flesh and blood, the spirit, have flesh and bones as I? So now the question is, did Joseph of Arimathea, possible Josephus, took this Jesus, the renegade that he had been running around after? Maybe he knew him on a personal level. Maybe he knew him on a Sadduceic, Pharisaic level. And he was crucified. And maybe, did he have pity on him? And then Nicodemus. There is a real Nicodemus Ben Gurion in history. And do you know when that was, my truth seekers? That was in the Roman and Jew War. And this Nicodemus was a nice man, and he helped store lots of food for the people that were starving in Judea. He was a wealthy man. Read about that. His name was even in the Jewish writings, I do believe, maybe Talmud or the Sanhedrin. So he comes in with this medicine. And then, through the night, the bandages are laid. He is in gardener's clothes. And everybody is having a fit because he has risen from the dead. We saw him die, and his side was pierced. You must believe. We have the power to resuscitate and bring back people. Now, so does that end the story of ever after? This renegade and this Mary, even if it was a real Mary? Because Irenaeus said that he died after he was around 50. So who was this masked man? Did he have children? They knew not that he was to rise from the dead. and the disciples were just going to leave him. But the woman is always there by the man's side, no matter what. So, truth seekers, I hope you've enjoyed part 6 of the series. Did Jesus really get crucified and resurrect? Could this be a resurrection host for all ages? Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Tell everyone about me. Hit the notification button to where you will get new videos. And we hope you have a wonderful Halloween. Stay safe. Stay close to your children. Hatep and Eshe. Goodbye.